Good morning, children. I am Mamta Sankolli. I am going to teach you history for the class 7th. Let me first begin from the textbook, our past second, class 7th history. First chapter, tracing changes through 1,000 years. So what happened, the changes over the 1,000 years, that we are going to discuss in this chapter. Right. Take a look at maps 1 and 2. Map 1 was made in 1154 CE by Arab geographer Al-Ardisi. The section reproduced here is a detail of the Indian subcontinent from his larger map of the world. Map 2 was made in 1970s by a French cartographer. So here you can see here this map is available. It is made over 1,000 years ago, in the year 1970s by the French cartographer. In 1054 CE by Arab geographer Al-Idrisi has also made the map. His map is map 1. In 1720s by a French cartographer, his map is map 2. Here you can see here. These two maps are very different from each other. Map 1 and map 2 are different from each other. The two maps are quite different even though they are of the same area. The area is same, but the maps they have made are quite different. They are different from one another. Let us see. In Al-Idrisi map, South India is where we would expect to find North India and Sri Lanka, the island at the top. Place names are marked in Arabic. As you know, this is an Arab geographer. So he has drawn this map and he has named the places in the Arabic. He has marked the South India where it should be in the North India, and Sri Lanka island, no, you know it is in the bottom. He has marked it in the top. And there are some well-known names like Kannauj in Uttar Pradesh. Map 2 was made nearly 600 years after the map 1, during which time information about the subcontinent had changed considerably. So you can see here the map had changed after 600 years. At least there is, you can see this map is almost similar to our today's India map. Right, and it was made after 600 years of the map 1 by Arab geographer, and map 2 is from the French cartographer. This map seems more familiar to us. The coastal areas in particularly are surprisingly detailed. Yes, in those days only they have Coromandala coast. You can see it very clearly. The coastal areas have been very clearly seen. Clearly can be seen in the map 2. Equally important is the fact that the science of cartography differed into two periods. When historians read documents, maps and text from the past, they have to be sensitive to the different historical backgrounds, the context in which the information about the past was produced. Yes, they have to be very careful, very much they have to see equally important the periods when the maps are made. Whenever a historian he is writing any documents, that time he has to write about, the text should contain about the past information, maps, everything. Right. New and old terminologies, very important. The terminologies which they are using now and which they were used in the before. Let us see what are the terminologies. If the context in which information is produced changes with time, what about language and meanings? Historical records exist in a variety of languages which have changed considerably over the years. Medieval Persian, for example, is different from modern Persian. Yes, in the olden days, medieval Persian is different from the modern Persian language. How now it is old Kannada language is now different from our new Kannada language. Hale Kannadana bereri, iga hosa Kannadana bere, like that. The difference is not just with regard to grammar and vocabulary, the meanings of words also change over the time. Yes, you can see the meanings of the words are also changing over the time. The grammar, the vocabulary, what we are using, it is changing. You can see Basavannavara Vachanagalu and all. In those days the language was different, and nowadays the language is different. Take the term Hindustan for example. Today we understand it as India, the modern nation state. When the term was used in the 13th century by Minhaj Siraj, a chronicler who wrote in Persian, he meant the areas of Punjab. Yes, when the take the term Hindustan for example. Now it is the modern state, we are calling it India, but in those time the Persian chronicler Minhaj Siraj, 13th century, when he was ruling the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the lands between Ganga and Yamuna, he used the term in a political sense for lands and that were a part of dominance of the Delhi Sultan, that is Minhaj Siraj. He had kept the name called the Hindustan. The areas included in this term shifted with the extent of the Sultanate, but the term never included South India. South India was not at all included, right? By contrast, in the early 16th century, Babur used Hindustan, described the geography, the fauna and the culture of the inhabitants of the subcontinent. As we will see later in the chapter, this was somewhat similar to the way the 14th century poet Amir Khusro used the word Hind, while the idea of geographical and cultural entity like India did exist. Yes, the Hindustan was named on the basis of the culture used during those times. It had not included the South India, but it had included only North India, that culture and all. After that, they had made they had used the word Hind. Even Amir Khusro in his poetry in the 14th century, he has used the word Hind in order to describe our geographical cultural entity, how the culture existed, right, in those days. The term Hindustan did not carry the political and national meanings which we associate with today. Yes, today we have a political sense is added to it, and there are national meanings also associated to it, where nowadays it is the thought that Hindus are living more, they are in majority, so we call it as a Hindustan. But in olden days it was not the thinking was different. Historians today have to be careful about the terms they use because they meant different things in the past. Take for example a simple term like foreigner. It is used today to mean someone who is not an Indian. Yes, today we are going to call a person foreigner if he is not an Indian. If he is not Indian, we are going to call him as a foreigner, right? In medieval period, a foreigner was any stranger who appeared, say in a given village, someone who was not a part of the society or the culture. The person who was not the part of the society or the culture of our culture, we used to call him as a foreigner in those days. Not the person who is not from India, or not the person who is from the other country or from the other state. We were calling the person a stranger or the person whom we don't know, them as a foreigner in the olden days, right? Someone who was not a part of our society or culture. In Hindi, the term Pardesi might be used to describe such a person, and in Persian, Ajnabi. A city dweller, therefore, might have regarded a forest dweller as a foreigner. But two peasants living in the same village were not foreigners to each other, even though they may have had different religious or caste background. So here a forest dweller, they were considering him as a foreigner. A city dweller means the person who is living in the city and who is not known to you. For them also they were considering them as also a foreigner. Right, like this, the person whom we don't know, in the olden days they were considering him or her as a foreigner, but now today whom we are considering as a foreigner, who is not the citizen of India, who is not of our country, we are considering him as a foreigner or her as a foreigner. Historians and their sources. Let us see. The sources means the clues which tell us what happened in the history, what happened in the past. Sources means clues, right? Those are the evidences which tell us what happened in the past. Historians use different types of sources to learn about the past depending upon the periods of their study and the nature of their investigation. Yes, here we learn about the past depending upon the period of their study, at what period they were living, how they were living, what they were doing in that particular period, in that particular year, what they were doing, right? For example, last year you read about rulers of the Gupta dynasty and the Harshavardhana. So last year you have learned about the kings, Gupta kings and the Harshavardhanas, and they were in this book we read about the following 1000 years from roughly 700 to 1750. So what all happened during the year 700 to 1750 we have learned in the history book last year, right? What all happened in this period, so that we are going to call it as a sources. We will notice some continuity in the sources used by historians for the study of this period. They still rely on coins, inscriptions, architectural and textual records for information. Yes, what are the sources? How we say that this boy has done 90%, or this boy is the class first, he has stood first rank to our class or to our school. How we say? By taking your test. By evidence is your papers, your written papers. We are going to check it, evaluate, and we say that this boy has scored 90% or this boy has scored 100% marks. So what was the source? The source were the papers conducted. Like that, historians, to tell about the king or queen, what were the sources about them? The sources were coins, inscriptions, architecture, and some textual records of information they were having. But there is also considerable discontinuity. The number and variety of textual records increased dramatically during this period. This slowly displaced other types of available information. Through this period, paper gradually became cheaper and more widely available. So what happened here? This time what happened? Nowadays you find that the paper is very much important. Now you have variety of textual records. They increased dramatically during this period. What they did, they started slowly writing on the papers. Before that they were writing on the leaf, right? Palm leaf, they were using the palm leaf and they were writing on that, right? Afterwards what happened? Now they are writing, or they were writing on the what you can see, the sheets of wood, small paper sheets. They used to make paper sheets of the wood, and on that wood they were writing. But slowly it changed. People used to write holy texts, chronicles of rulers, letters and teachings of saints, petitions and judicial records, and for registers of accounts and taxes. Very important, they have to make the records. People used to write holy texts about Ramayana, about Bhagavad Gita, about Mahabharata, the stories of Mahabharata. Like this they were writing. Quran and all holy texts, Bible were written, and chronicles of the rulers, how they ruled the country, what all happened, all these things were written. Letters were there, letters, they were used to write the letters in different languages, and teachings of the saints, petitions, whatever that saints used to tell, they used to teach, they used to write it. Accounts, taxes, everything they used to maintain. How they used to maintain? They used to maintain it, they used to maintain the accounts and the taxes in these records, so that what was the expenditure, what expenditure the king has made, what expenditure has been done by the king, what are his expenditures and all, what are the incomes, what are the expenditures of the kings and the queens, that all taxes they used to make, how much the farmers had paid the taxes to the government, that also accounts they used to maintain. Manuscripts were collected by wealthy people, rulers, monasteries and temples. Manuscripts means the scripts which are written by the human beings or by the hand. By using hand, if they are writing the scripts, they are called as the manuscripts. And these manuscripts, it contained the information about whom? About the wealthy people, about the rulers, about the monasteries and about the temples. They were placed in libraries and archives. So holy places and in the libraries and some meeting hall and all, these books were available. These manuscripts and documents provide a lot of detailed information to historians, but they are also difficult to use. Yes, because it is 600 years ago records, 1000 years ago records, 2000 years, sometimes 5000 years ago records. So it is very difficult to use. We can't use it, and the most important is we don't understand the language, the grammar, the words, the letters they have written. There was no printing press in those days, so scribes copied manuscripts by hand. If you have ever copied a friend's homework, you would know that this is not a simple exercise. Sometimes you cannot read your friend's handwriting and are forced to guess what is written. As a result, there are small but significant differences in your copy of your friend's work. So you can see here there is very difficulty. So when you copy your friend's homework, it becomes very difficult, right? To copy your friend's homework. You have seen you make mistakes when you are copying. When you are writing on your own, you make less mistakes. If you are copying from your friend, what happens here and there, you make some small mistakes because you are not understanding the handwriting of that person from whose book you are copying. So same problem happened with the scripts when they were copying the manuscripts which was already written. As scripts copied manuscripts, they are also introduced small changes, a word here, a sentence here. As I already told you, when you copy some things, you miss some letters or you add your own letters, or sometimes you make the grammatical mistakes. You make sentence, you add the sentence or you delete the sentence. These small differences grew over centuries until the manuscripts of the same text became substantially different from one another. Yes, this happened. You can see here the two manuscripts. Here the person is writing. Please watch this figure. Here the person is writing. He is copying from the another book and he is writing. You can see the handwriting. Here it is different, and here whatever he has written in Arabic, it is different. Same text becomes substantially different from one another. Here people imagine and try to add something on their own, making guesses of whatever the evidence is there. They start making some guesses of it and they add one or delete one word from it. This is a serious problem because we rarely find the original manuscript of the author today. We are totally dependent upon the copies made by the later scripts. As a result, historians have to read different manuscript versions of the same text to guess what the author had originally written. So what happens here, when you are not understanding any concept, what you do, you keep 4 copies. You ask your best friend to give 1 copy. You ask another 3 friends to give copy. You compare all that, and which one you find it more of them have written the same answer, that answer you copy. Right? It happens to everyone. whenever you are not finding the correct solution, whenever you are not getting the correct of it, what you do, we refer 4 people. Whenever we don't get a solution to expected solution to our problems, what we do, we contact 4 good persons, we ask their suggestions, and whatever they give, when there are all solutions, one which is common, you take it and you apply in your life. Same thing now the historians had. There were 4 different books written, and they tried to bring the same concept which was written, same things which were written, and they copied it in their books. On occasion, authors revised their chronicles at different times. The 14th century chronicler Ziauddin Bahrani wrote his chronicle first in 1356 and another version 2 years later. The two differ from each other, but historians did not know about the existence of the first version until the 1960s. Yes, you can see here the chronicles were not knowing that there is a first version of the book wrote by Bahrani in the year till the year 1960s. So these things are happening in the history. Because nowadays, if you want any information, you search in Google, immediately you are getting it, so you are not worried about it. But in the previous years, in the previous days, it was not so easy thing happening. There were no libraries, there were no any Google, or there was no any information technology where you can store maximum informations. All were handwritten, everything was written on the papers. It remained lost in large library collections. Yes, this was the thing happening in large library, in a big library, somewhere it got out. So he was unable to know it, he was unable to remove it, he was unable to come to know until the 1960s. New social and political groups. The study of the 1000 years between 700 and 1750 is a huge challenge to historians, largely because of the scale and variety of developments that occurred over the period. At different moments in this period, new technologies made their appearance, like the Persian wheel in irrigation, the spinning wheel in weaving, and firearms in combat. So here we can see that there were developments. Language came out. The language, common language, became Persian. Wheels started coming out, so it was helpful in the movement, helpful in the irrigation. Spinning wheel, we can view the clothes, right? Wheel, spinning wheel, car use ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಈ ರೀತಿ wheel round ತಿರುಗೋದು, so that by that we can view the clothes. And firearms in the combat. New foods and beverages arrived in the subcontinent. Potatoes, corn, chilies, tea and coffee. You can see people started growing different varieties of foods. Beverages means drinks here. People started drinking tea and coffee. In the olden days, what they were doing? They were collecting the fruits, they were collecting the produce, they were collecting the food which were available in the forest. They were eating it, they were consuming the flesh of the animals, they were hunting the animals, and that flesh of the animals they were consuming. But what happened after the history got developed, after the people got developed, what they did, they started discovering new foods and new beverages. The foods were like potatoes were grown, corn was grown, chilies, and drinks like beverages like tea and coffee came into existence. Remember that all these innovations, new technologies and crops came along with people who brought other ideas with them as well. Yes, this is most important, innovations and technologies. Because whatever nowadays the farmers are doing irrigation, rather than following scientific farming, they follow all other things. So technology is the best tool. If you use it in irrigation, definitely we earn higher yields, we earn higher incomes. So in the history, in the past also, slowly the technology was used in the irrigation. In order to get the good crops, more production, the technology was used. As a result, this was a period of economic, political, social and cultural changes. Yes, when you see change in one field, definitely it affects the changes in the other fields. When you see changes in the political field, yes, definitely it is going to affect the changes in social fields. Social field means nothing. It is interaction with the people, from person to person interaction. Cultural changes means people will start to wear different clothes, different ornaments, different type of dressing. We can see slowly it started getting developed in these years. This was also a period of great mobility. Groups of people traveled long distances in search of the opportunity. We can see here people started traveling from one place to another in place of the opportunity. Opportunity means what? Opportunity for jobs, opportunity for to make a dwelling place, to make the houses, to make themselves comfortable in one area. The subcontinent held immense wealth and the possibilities for people to carve a fortune. Yes, what is a fortune for everyone? It is nothing but the wealth. We all move together from one place to other place in search of wealth. Why do we do jobs? We do jobs in order to earn the income, in order to make ourselves more wealthy. We do the jobs. Same thing was happening in the past also. People were in search of jobs. They were moving from one place to another place, from one village to another village, from one town to the another town, from one city to another city. One group of people who became important in this period were the Rajputs. So here you can see slowly one community came into existence, and that were the Rajputs. A name derived from Rajaputra, the son of a ruler. Ruler means king. The son of the king is called as the Rajaputra. Between the 8th and 14th centuries, the term was applied more generally to a group of warriors who claimed Kshatriya caste status. Here now a new caste emerged. Right, they were called as Kshatriyas. Why do we call them Kshatriyas? They are protecting us from the enemies. The soldiers are fighting. They are defending the kingdom. They are defending the territory in which they are living. The term included not just rulers and chieftains but also soldiers and commanders who served in the armies of different monarchs all over the subcontinent. Yes, these were included. They were not only soldiers but a group of soldiers. Means army was there. Monarchs means small kings were also there in the subcontinent. Chieftains were there, commanders were there who were protecting the kingdom. A chivalric code of conduct, extreme valor and a great sense of loyalty were the qualities attributed to Rajputs by their poets and bards. You can see here the poets started praising. Nowadays we all praise our soldiers. We all proudly say that these are our soldiers. Like that in those days, poets who were learned people, they started writing the poems on the soldiers, on the commanders, on the kings, on the queens, on the chieftains of their villages. Other groups of people such as the Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, Ahams, Kshatriyas, a caste of scribes and secretaries also used the opportunities of the age to become politically important. So you can see that when there is a village, there are different castes are there, different creeds are there, different religions are there. Same in those days also, new castes came into existence. Those were Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, Ahams, Kshatriyas, etc. Throughout this period, there was a gradual clearing of forest and the extension of agriculture, a change faster and more complete in some areas than in others. Yes, this is going to happen. When you saw the development, When people started progressing, then what they started? They started cutting the forest and they started increasing the agricultural lands. They started increasing the agricultural field. Got what you can say? People started working more in the agricultural field. As a result, the forests were cut down. Changes in their habitat forced many forest dwellers to migrate. Yes, this is a very common thing to happen. The habitat, the life of the people who were living in the forest. Forest dwellers means the people who were living in the forest. Dwelling means living. So they have to migrate. Migrate means from one place to the another place. From forest they were forced to come to the city because their forest area was completely cut down. Agricultural activity was extended. Then what the forest dwellers, the people who were living in forest, what they had to do? They had to come to the city. These new peasant groups gradually began to be influenced by regional markets. Yes, when you come to the city, what you do? Where you go? You first go to the market. Which market you go? Regional market. Local market you are going to visit. Yes, what is there in the market? What clothes I have to buy? What utensils I have to buy? This is your enthusiasm or your curiosity. What is available in Mudhol's market? Same thing happened to those forest dwellers. When they came to the city, they saw the regional markets, chieftains, priests, to be in monasteries and temples. They went to meet all these important persons in the village or the city or the town. They became a part of large complex societies and were required to pay taxes and offer goods and services to local lords. Yes, this is how everything happens. They have to gradually, when you earn the income, you have to pay tax to the government. Nowadays, we pay tax to the government. In those days, they were the kings were there, chieftains were there, commanders were there, who were collecting the taxes from the farmers for the goods and services they have produced in their village or in the city or in the town. As a result, significant economic and social differences emerged among the peasants. Peasants means farmers. See, whenever there is a money, when money is involved, definitely there will be what you can say, changes in the social environment as well as in the economic field. When money is more, you can see the people are very rich. When money is less, you see that the people are poor. So peasants, it had the significant, means important changes came into place. When farmers are wealthy, when the farmers are rich, what happens? What happens to the economy? You can see the economy is a developed economy. When the farmers are poor, how is the economy? The economy is less developed. So here you can see there, when the persons came from forest and they started, they have taken their job as a farmer, they started growing the crops, they started earning income, and also they have started to pay the taxes to the kings. So that what happened, we saw a lot of changes, important changes in the social and economic fields. Some possessed more productive land, others also kept cattle, and some combined artisanal work with agricultural activity during the lean season. Yes, every day is not a gold day. So one day there will be, you are going to earn income, and some days we have to live without the income. So for that sake, what these people did, what these farmers did, they used their talents to produce the goods and services along with the agriculture. Not only they were doing the farming, but by using the talents, they were making the pots, they were making the ornaments, they were making the coins, they were weaving the clothes, like that different activities. They were doing small trade, right? Buying and selling of goods and services they were doing. By that they used to have their additional income, or they used to have the income when there was no agricultural income. And some kept cattle, you know, livestock. Nowadays we are using the word called livestock. Livestock means it is all animal rearing. It includes the cattle, it includes the sheep, it includes the goats, everything. But that also, by selling the milk of the cattle, you are going to earn the money. As the society became more differentiated, people were grouped into jatis or subcaste and ranked on the basis of their backgrounds and their occupations. Yes, these jatis came into existence according to the occupations the people were doing, according to the profession, according to their talents. They were doing some work, or the occupation they were doing some jobs. For example, potter, they called him as a kumbar. Like that, according to their profession, they started giving the jatis or the caste to a particular person. The person who is a merchant or who is involved in trade, shatru, we call them as shattis. Like that, the caste came into existence, or the jatis and subcastes came into existence. Ranks were not fixed permanently and varied accordingly to their power, influence and resources controlled by the members of jati. The status of the same jati could vary from area to the area. Yes. So you can see the jati system came into existence, and it was ranked differently in different areas. In one area, the Reddy community may be in dominance. In one area, the Shattar community may be in dominance. In like that, there were different, the ranks were varying from area to the area. Jatis framed their own rules and regulations to manage the conduct of their members. These regulations were enforced by an assembly of elders described in some areas as Jati Panchayat. Yes, we all know in every caste there are heads, right? Those are the heads who are going to make the rules and regulations. For example, in Brahmin caste, there are the heads who decide that how the puja should be done, how we have to worship the god. Like that, in every caste they had Jati Panchayat. There were the assembly of elders who used to take the decision, who used to make the rules and regulations, how that the Jati people should live in the society, how should they lead their life in the society. But jatis were also required to follow the rules of their villages. Several villages were governed by a chieftain. Together they were only one small unit of a state. Yes, here we can see that there are common rules and regulations of the village that everyone should follow. He may be of any caste, any jati, but he has to follow the common rules and regulations which was decided by the chieftains in the village, and together they constituted what? Very small unit of a state. Mudhol is a small unit of Karnataka state. Like that, every village was a small unit of a state. Next one, region and empire. Large states like those of Cholas, chapter 2, Tughlaqs or Mughals encompassed many regions. A Sanskrit Parsati, chapter 2 for an example, Parshati, praising the Delhi Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban, explained that he was the ruler of a vast empire that stretched from Bengal, Gauda in the east to Ghazni, Khazana in Afghanistan in the west, and include all of the South India Dravida. Here you can see these are the chapters which are telling about the kings, Chola kings, Mughals, right? These were the chapters about those rulers, about the kings, how much area they have conquered. What was their bravery? What was the army? How much soldiers were there? What was their army's, bravery? What was their army's strength? That we can see in these chapters. In these chapters they have shown, right? In Afghanistan, up to South India, Dravida, they have covered all these areas. Means they have shown the strength of these kings. What were their weaknesses also, and what were the strengths of these kings. People of different regions, Gauda, Gauda, Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat apparently fell before his armies. Historians regard these as exaggerated claims of conquest. At the same time, they try to understand why rurals kept claiming to have control over different parts of the country, subcontinent. So here you can see that the king was in this map you are seeing that he has conquered lot of the areas. Why he was conquering? He wants to show his power to the whole world. For that sake, he used to conquer all these areas, all these different regions with his apparently failed, means both. He was having a very big army, huge army. He was making the enemy's army to fled before his armies. This was how the historians, because of all these kings, whatever they have conquered, their braveries and all, it was written by the poets, by some of the people who were living in those days. They have written about these kings. These are the sources for the historians in order to know about what happened in the past, what happened in the history. Right, so 700 years back what happened, 800 years back what happened, we are able to know because of these sources which are available in the past. It may be in the form of documents, it may be in the form of text, or it may be in the form of poems, or it may be in the form of literature, but these all are available, these books are available, and these make us to know what all happened in the past. Okay children, thank you. Next I will cover in the next class, old and new religions.